Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to this presentation of the KETRON products once again. And we're going to do this freestyle because this is actually for those of you who requested it. This is for all of you out there. So we're going to be more interactive today. We're going to be taking a lot more questions as we go ahead and showing you exactly what you can do with these machines. Again, just notice how versatile these instruments are, or these instruments are indeed, when it comes to live production, right? This is so nice. Yes. Of course, as many of you would notice, I'm actually using those beautiful AJAMSONIC sounds, and we're going to go through a couple of those today as we go through this presentation. So just to give you a general idea of what I'm doing here, I'm actually triggering our chords on my left, as always, and bringing in all the different parts in real time, okay? So I can actually go ahead, and again, so much you can do with this instrument in real time as you perform. So, once again, this is AJ. Welcome to this brief, well, we always say brief and we end up going overboard, right? Because we get all these questions. So how is everybody doing today? We're gonna go and check on our people again once more on Facebook. Facebook, how does it sound out there for you guys? It's kind of interesting trying to tweak this with the mixer and everything in real time. Let's look at the people on Facebook. I don't see not too many people on Facebook. Oh, somebody is actually in. Hey, how are you doing? Let's go to our folks on YouTube and see if we've woken them up already. And it was 1 o'clock, and we were trying to make sure that when we do this live stream, we pick a time that works best for most of us, like for most of the people. Can't make all the people happy all the time, right? So hopefully some people are going to come back and actually watch this later on in the day as well. So as the title suggests, we're going to talk about the SD96090 and talk a little bit about the Audya series. And there's been a lot of questions about which, which is better for what particular purpose. So we should talk about that as well today as we continue with this live presentation. So we'll also talk about some of the sounds. People were asking about the, the specific uniqueness of the AJAMSONIC package. What does it have to offer? And we will discuss that as well today. For an example, one of the guitar sounds I'm using here, it's actually the AJAMSONIC, what do you call it? Nylon guitar, okay? And then I'm playing with the arrangement on my left right here. Again, that's one of the sounds that actually has articulation, what we actually refer to as VCE, voice character emulation, in the terminology used by KETRON. So if I showed you my screen right now, it looks like this for this particular style, okay? And then as you would notice, pretty much we have a style there called the dance hall. And what I've done pretty much, if you look at the top panel, I've actually gone in and I tried to adjust the volume sliders. I took out the drums, I took out the bass. I have the chord volume really, really low here so we can get get those marimba sounds in there. But I just want them to be not not overpowering the music, just lay back in the background. Also, as you will notice on my lower voices, I have lower voices here. Now, this is very interesting. And let me explain a little bit more about those lower voices, all right? So here we have a lower slider, and you have two voices. So every style actually comes with this, right? So, and now we'll get into the whole idea of the polyphony and how many voices that the instrument can actually produce at a given time. That's what the polyphony issue is. On here we have 128, right? On the Audya series we have 196, and we'll talk about that later. But so here I can actually, for every rhythm I actually have two voices that I can actually use on my unit right here, lower one and lower two. And even though they have independent volumes, as you can see on the screen right there, I can go up and show you. This is the control volume for the first lower voice, and this is the control volume for the second lower voice. Even though you have that, when you combine these two volumes, they're all in that slider over here. So this volume slider controls that volume, right? So when I play these chords that you're listening to right there, it's made up of those two instruments, these two. And I can make one louder than the other. I got a soft voice and I got an atmosphere. These are both pads. So when I'm playing on the left, you're hearing those gentle pads, okay? And these are just, again, if you notice, not too loud. It's just a little, they're there to actually tie everything together for the most part. And then on my right hand, which is going to be controlled by these over here, the right, I have two voices here, or two control knobs for my right. This one actually controls three voices, right? So if you notice, all right, so let me do this real quick. I'm going to go into that particular sound, and I'm going to hold it for 2 seconds, and it brings me to this screen right here, right? So you can actually see the different voices that make up this sound. The first voice is the acoustic stereo, okay? Right there in the top, you see acoustic stereo. The second voice is the steel guitar, which is where, if you see the V, it's a special voice. It's a special voice that we're actually using. And it allows me to actually have that articulation when I actually go in and play the voice as such. So when I'm playing soft and hard, I'm actually triggering the different layers of that particular voice within that particular sample. But again, I was hoping that today I'm not going to go into too much depth. I'm just going to show you the characteristic and the nature of that particular voice. So if I get back to my screen, you can see the acoustic AJ guitar, which has now been selected for the most part. And then I can now play along with that guitar. And as I'm playing, okay, let me give you an idea of the nature of this. So pretty much when I'm playing, depending on how soft or how hard I hit, I get that nuisance of the guitar, okay? So this is, again, people have been asking a lot of questions about, how exactly does the articulation on the KETRON products work. So if you notice, we don't have a dedicated button on the panel to turn the articulation on and off. You do that as you're performing live. Again, that comes just with the AJAMSONIC package because of the way the sounds are arranged within the structure of that package, okay? So when you play soft or when you play hard, you can actually trigger the nuisance of that particular instrument. So what happens when we put everything together? What exactly are we looking at here? I can now start playing a chord here. I take out the drums, take out the bass. I want the chord volume to be up so I can hear my marimbas, okay? And I'm going to do a key start so that when I press a button, when I play a chord to the left of the split point, then what I'm going to get is my backing track, for lack of a better word. We call it style because we can control it in real time, okay? So if I do this now, those are my chords. The lower voice, if I take out the lower voice. So really, this is how you produce your music, right? Right there. And of course, I'm going to go in now, add the right part. I'm going to do another sound, another AJAMSONIC sound, which is a steel drum, but it's going to be a mixed sound of the steel and the nylon guitar. Now, You also notice with that sound, I'm going to have the chords go for a second. When I hold it down for a long time, you get the thrill effect, okay? You hear that in the steel drum, okay? The thrill. If you play gentle, you don't get that thrill sound. If you play hard, so this is what gets the whole package together. Here we go. So that gives you an idea of exactly what we're looking for, right? So you see what I'm talking about. These are the little tricks that you have to understand. First of all, the basics of how the instrument works and what you can do to make it work in your favor, right? So in this particular discussion that we're having right now, we're talking about the sound, how you can layer, how you can create the sound, okay, and how you can tweak it and make that sound respond to your actual touch. It responds to your touch, it responds to your velocity, how hard or how soft you play the keyboard. And just by layering the voices, you can actually come up with something very, very interesting. You know, like a nylon steel guitar in combination with a steel drum, for example, and you have your backing over here on my left with my chord structure, my chords, and then it gets to be very, very, very interesting, right? So that's one aspect of it, and you can see how easy it is to do as I'm doing that just right before your very eyes, right? Okay, so another thing we're going to dive into also is let's talk about again, sticking with the voices, let's look at something very interesting and unique with regards to KETRON. And I think this was actually discussed on one of the forums not too long ago. So I'm going to turn off the second voice, and let's look at this voice. This is a very important aspect of this keyboard because you are going to realize how quickly it is to use this feature to your advantage. So right now on the screen, if you look at your screens, I've selected a voice. That's called the lounge tenor. This is a factory voice, okay? And if I just put up the volume a little bit, we have that particular sound coming up there, right? So now, that is one particular instrument, okay? If you notice, and this is something we just revised in the new software out there, if I go to the category of piano, for example, and I pick a piano, so that's a piano sound, right? Apply sustain. Now, notice something here. If I switch from voice to voice, if I have a piano, let me pick something that's more interesting. Let me pick a pad. All right? The pad is on. So whatever I'm playing right now is the instrument which has been selected. Now, if I hold that instrument down and I make another selection for another voice, okay? Let's pick the sax. If you notice, so long as my fingers remain pressed on the keyboard, the sound hasn't changed. The sound only changes when I go to hit the next note. So it's a very smooth transition, right? Very, very smooth. Okay, so you notice, one sound stops, the other one continues, right? Now, this is where you have the polyphony thing. This is the reason why on the Audya, it's another step forward. And I'm going to be talking about this as we go forward with the presentation. So let's do a similar example on the audio, okay? So I'm going to come here, and I'm going to pick, say, a flute sound, the Ajamsonic flute here. And I'm going to take out that second voice, so we only have one instrument. So as I hold down that note and I change to another instrument, let's say I change over here to a sax, okay? So I'm holding that down. So you see what happened? As I hold down the first note, if I keep that note pressed, okay, or keep those chords, notes or chord, all right, that particular sound is held, and the next sound is what is selected. So let's do this again. So I have this sound called Ajam Movies, and I'm holding the chord down, okay? Let me do it lower here so I can use my right hand. Now, I'm going to pick a flute sound. Notice the Ajam sound is still going, okay? I have an Andes flute here. Now, the Ajam is still playing, but because I have a selection here, I can hold this chord down. Okay? So, it's a very smooth transition as you go from one sound to another. Many keyboards don't have this particular feature. Normally what happens is when you switch from one voice to another, you have an erratic switch in either the effects or the sound itself. In this case with KETRON, we're able to actually have a smooth transition between the voices, or you can actually hold a voice, make a selection, and only on the next time that you actually play that the new voice gets to be heard. Okay. Again, you don't have any jump, or you don't have any erratic or sporadic change in the sounds, and that's something that actually allows you to be able to have smooth transitions as you go from one voice to another, and it sounds like it's very, very seamless. But again, this is a very good feature because it allows you to play any song that you're playing, and it's going to be very, very smooth. You have an actual smooth transition as you go from one voice to another. So you can see exactly here in the case of these two instruments how each one handles it a little bit differently, but we have, of course, an advantage on the Audya because it has a massive polyphony of 196 notes. So we're able to sustain your previous voice while playing the next voice at the same time. On the SD, we're able to transition from the previous voice into the next voice without any hiccups or without any drastic change in the different effects, even though each voice has its own effects and may actually be routed a little bit differently, right? So that's a very, very interesting feature. And like I said, these are little subtle things that actually bring you up to the point where you're able to now put the whole package together for the most part, right? So I figured that we're going to show you that and discuss that a little bit as well too, especially with the voicing scenario, right? Okay, now I'm going to go on to something a little bit more interesting. I'm trying to look for that registration setting, again, that we have loaded in here that will permit us to demonstrate this. Okay, so let's see. So we have our nice organ voice we're going to use here to demonstrate this particular style. And let me see if I have this set up correctly. So on the bottom keyboard, I'm going to pick, again, you don't have to have two keyboards, right? But if you have two, it's a lot easier when you go back and forth when you're making sound selections. Of course, you can always program that and use either the registrations on the keyboard itself, or you can also use just a simple voice selection here. But again, since the presentation has to do with both instruments, we figured we have them both here. Let's talk about them both, and we can talk about the different features that both have to offer, okay? So do we have any questions so far on the voicing? I know people, some people are saying we should play music. I just want to explain this, the features and how this works first. Um, let's see. Impressive. Someone has the SSC drive. How do you get the work? How the styles and sounds are fantastic. My daughter got to watch this. Yes, yeah, those of you who have kids, especially with what we're going through now with the whole COVID stuff, right? Music is like you have a thing that we call music therapy, right? And you can actually use music to get through these troubling times, indeed. And the KETRON products are here to help. You know, again, these instruments, they make you feel like you're actually performing with a live band, because the sounds that are coming out of these are actually live sounds indeed, right? So let's see. Do we have any more questions coming up on Facebook? Let's see. I'm going to go over to YouTube, and we have someone, I think, asked a question. Let's see. Yes, the answer is yes, sir. Yes, that's correct. That is correct. You're correct, right? And we're streaming on multiple channels here, so we're going back and forth to just make sure that everybody is okay. Okay. All right. So let's get back to the demonstration here, yep. So we're talking about, as I'm trying to switch over here, let's get back into the keyboards, about the different functions and features. Let's look at this other interesting feature as well right here. So I'm going to have a rhythm here, okay? And this is, people have asked about this. You know, you have this soul feeling of the keyboard. In other words, how do you use this in live performances to sound live? And the way I can do this is I can pick a track, I can pick a style that's going to have some energy to it, all right? I'm going to pick this one right here. So let's see. All right, listen to that guitar. Let me show you the screen here so you can see what style I'm talking about. You see that soul? All right? This is pretty much a live style, okay? Now, I'm going to pick up one thing here so you can see what I'm talking about. Let me stop that for a second. If you notice, in the top left-hand corner, you see how it says A-1, right? Now, on the SD90, and this is exclusively on the SD90, SD60, and SD, missing one, SD9 right here, yes. So you do have most arrangers. Let's talk about this for a second. Most arrangers have 4 variations: variation A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 3 fills, 3 breaks, 3 intros, and 3 endings. On this one, you have an additional. So you have, in some styles, you actually have 8 variations. Okay, so that's like having variation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or having A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. 8 variations to a style, but it's hidden. Right? So if you look at the screen here, for an example, we have variation A, B, C, D. That's where it's my overhead camera here. So we have the variation A, B, C, D. And you can see that displayed on the window. When you're in A, for an example, if you look at the screen, A lights up, A1. If you're in B, you have B1. If you're in C, you have C1. And if you're in D, you have D1. Now, but this is where it gets interesting. So if you press A, you're in the first variation right here, A1. But if you press A again, see what happens? A2. So A has 2 variations by itself. If you press the B variation the first time, you're going to be in B1. And if you press the B again the second time, watch the screen, it says B2. So if I hit this, right, that's B variation number 2, as you can see on the screen right there. If I hit B again, I'm going to come out of that, and I'm going to go into B1. Okay? And sometimes these are just subtle. See? There you can notice a big difference right there, especially with the drums, right? So this is what actually allows you to have a lot of variation as you perform. And that way you don't sound like a track. You don't sound like, it's not monotonous, right? You're actually having different musical elements to work with as you produce your song. So in this particular example here, I'm going to take out the bass, I'm going to take out the chord, and I'm going to start with something nice organ sound, okay, for the most part. And you see, you can balance everything in real time. So this is just me trying to know we're getting close to Christmas, right? So that was like a little teaser, right? You could see exactly what we're doing there. You hear the horns coming out. You also heard the Wawa, the live guitar, okay? And that guitar, let me just show you how this is working, right? I'm going to take out the drums. I'm going to take out the bass. We're going to go into the chord category, go into the view, and you can see it's an R&B live guitar. It's an audio guitar that I'm playing with. And let me take out the lower voices so I can take out those guys over there. So if I play a chord, this guitar right here that you're hearing, that's the live guitar, okay? And depending on what variation I'm in, let's go to the screen. You hear that wow? And I can make it a little bit louder so it can stand out, okay? So, here we go. Those are the chords I'm playing. Bring in the bass line. Drums. Fill. Variation. Lower voices, bring them up. Now bring it to the guitar. So that guitar, trust me, makes a difference in your music. The whole idea is that it makes you want to play. Horns, lower voices. So again, this is just showing you again some of the little tricks that are under the hood when it comes to actually being able to create your own music, right? So let me go back again to the questions and see if we have any questions, and see those of you who are watching us live. I know some of you are focused on the elections, and you're going to come back and watch this probably later on as well. So let's look at the guys here on Facebook. The wah effect in the guitar. Question from Rob F. Is the Wawa effect included in the live guitar loop or done with the DSP? So it's both. In this particular example, the Wawa is actually included in the loop. And that's why we actually used in this example a longer loop, right? So it's not redundant. It's not like every fourth measure or every eighth measure. For this particular style, we're using 16 bars, okay? Remember also that because you have the different variations, you can actually use a different part so that it doesn't, again, to spread out the redundancy, right? So it's not redundant every single time for the most part. So to answer your question, yes, it's actually, in this case, within the sample. But there are other instances where the wah-wah effect can be applied as an effect. So you can take a distortion guitar, for example, you can take an electric guitar, and you can then add the wah-wah to it. Now, which brings me to another thing right here. If we look at this other board, right, look at the Audya, okay, it even goes a little bit deeper. So if you look at the Audya here, for example, I'm going to take my mouse out of the way there for a second. If you look at these buttons here, there are 16 programmable buttons, right? And if you look very, very closely at the number 4, it says wah-wah to pedal, okay? So you can actually have the wah-wah effect programmed to an expression pedal, and when you press this button, it's now transferred to the pedal. You can use the pedal to manually bring in the wah-wah, okay, the wah-wah effect as well. So this is a very neat feature indeed, because this is like an expansion of your foot switch pedals. So the player can actually reach out here and actually trigger some of these in real time. Now, the buttons over here, again, these are some of the secrets of the Audya series, right? These are programmable. So if you have the factory settings 1 through 16 are the functions that are displayed on the panel right there. But if you press the mode button and you go into the screen, if I get out of menu here for a second, so I can show you what I'm talking about, and you can program these to be drum on and off. So this could be like the drum parts, like the kick, snare, hi-hat. You can program this to be on or off. You can program this to be GM, so these 16 buttons become your general MIDI channels when you're playing a MIDI file. You can instantly turn on and off the different MIDI tracks. You can program these to be the Arabic scale for quarter note tuning. You can program these to be assignable. So I can say, for example, number 1 should be start, stop. Number 2 should be lyrics up, down. Number 3 should be variation. I mean, I already have those buttons here, but let's look at embedded functions. For example, changing the page, turning on the vocalizer to a different effect. I can program these. These are user programmable. And I can also go to number 5, which will be playlist. This could be assigned to a playlist. So when I hit number 1, my first song, be that a MIDI file or a wave or MP3, starts playing. If I hit the next button, it's another MIDI file or wave. I can assign these to actual playlists and trigger that, okay? So these are very, very, very powerful, and it's very, very nice for those who are performing live. Remember, when you're performing live, your essential thing is you're trying to get to different aspects of your song real quick and instantly without having to mess with menus and turning buttons and wheels, turning wheels and pressing buttons. So the Audya is great for that because it has over 102 buttons on the panel, as you can see, right? If I go here to this camera, and all these buttons can take you into different functions instantly by just pushing a button for one particular function. So it's very, very nice when you're using this in a for a live performance or live setting for the most part. So I hope that answers your question, Rob, with regards to the DSP. It's very, very interesting because it gives you both options. Now, remember, you can also use them in combination, right? You can actually have a sample that has a wah, right? But you can then introduce the DSP wah as needed, right? You know, bring it in, take it out, bring it in, take it out into your song. So that's a very good question indeed. Again, it's these little things, right, that actually make up your song, your music, and that's what makes makes songs differentiates a song that was carefully crafted, carefully organized, well put together, and one that was just rushed together, right? So that's the beauty of it for the most part. So that was the other example on that. Now let's touch on something here which is very interesting as well. We didn't go into that deeply last time, but this is the modeling function, and it's also found on the Audya. I'm going to start with the Audya series here, for example. Okay, so on the Audya, okay, I actually have the capability to be able to use what they call modeling, to be able to have different parts of the style that are changed in real time. And what do I mean by that? Let me pick this style here. Let's see, Italian pop, for example. Okay. So there we have a style, variation A. Now, if I go to the view screen, funny when you go from one machine to the next, buttons are different. So over here we have our view. So I'm going to go to my view, and this tells me the different parts of the style, the different compositions of the style. Let me see if I can get a screenshot of that Audya screen. Can we get a screenshot there? Let's see, I'm trying to get a screen out so we can actually see, you can see what I'm talking about here a lot closer. So this there we go. I can make that a little bit brighter so we can, okay? All right, so if you see this now, so these are the different parts of the style. Now, my drum track, my audio drum is right there, okay? And then I have my groove and I have my bass. Now, let's take out everything and let's listen to just that bass line. Now, how do I model that bass? Okay, if F3 is my bass, if I hit that twice, it tells you bass bank, right? Now I can go and turn the wheel and select different bass tracks. See? That's a techno bass track. So this is how you do modeling in the Audya. All right, that's another one there. That's for variation A. If I go to variation B, it's back to the original, right? I can again turn the wheel and get into the bass bank and select different bass lines. It's a slow rock bass line. If I turn the wheel again, so. Okay, so that's an A and B, C. If I want to go back again, you can go now to arranger C. Again, it goes back to the original one that was in there. I can turn that wheel. Go like a rumba. I don't know what a rumba, a reggaeton. Maybe I want like a blues. Okay, so that's modeling the bass line on the Audya. So in A, I have this. B, I have that. Okay, now let's model the other parts. I'm going to bring up my chords. Okay, in the chord number 2, I have an acoustic folk guitar. That came with the machine. I want to hit that twice, and I'm going to go into the guitar bank, right? Guitar bank number 1. So now I can, again, turn the wheel and pick something else. Let me pick this one, for example. Bring up the volume. Now, let's do this. You could look for electric guitar. You can find an electric guitar there. Oh, wow. I have a Wawa noise there. So, Rob, in this case, for example, here I actually have that wah sample, and I'm actually calling that in as one of my voices. And I'm going to bring that up so you can actually hear it. So it's distinguishable, right? You see that? That's that nice Wawa guitar sound in there, okay? And that's in chord 1. Now I'm gonna go into, let's say, chord number 4. I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna hit that twice. It says arp and lick, and I'm gonna pick, let's see, 8/16 piano, string, synth. I can go through. Let's hear. I can hear them. I wanna hear, let's see, strings. Bring the volume up so you can actually hear it. I don't want that. Let's see, guitar. Nope. Again, this is how you model. Okay, you're modeling the different parts on the Audya, and we'll talk about how you do this on the SD. So the whole bunch of things you can go through here. All right, so these are all like different arpeggios that you can use. And remember, these are all following you as you're performing, okay? It's all in sync with the MIDI clock. So I can actually now go in, if I want to slow that down, I can go into a tempo, and everything is going to be slowed down together. Now I can pick a sound on my right hand. notice, again, that was modeling. We're able to do the modeling on the Audya series, for example. It's very simple, going into view and double-clicking or double-touching the various arranger parts to get into the bank and then make your selection from that particular bank as well, okay? So this is going into very deep into the Audya series. Now, let's watch how that is done on the SD series. A little bit different, right? So I'm going to pick, we have this style right there, okay? And we're going to dissect this style. So let's go in and pick that. Let's go into variation A. And how do I model? All right, I'm going to go in here on the bottom. It says live modeling. And it says live here because you can actually model the different parts. So you can see the style parts displayed here in a pad-like structure. Okay, if I go to your screen, this is what your screen should look like. Once we have the signal coming in from this keyboard, this is what your screen should look like, okay? So you can see the pads on there. So just by simply touching a particular pad, okay, I can go ahead and change the parts. So let's say I want to change the bass track, for example, right here on this. I touch it, hold it for 2 seconds, and I do have a whole bank displayed on my left, right there, okay? I can then go in, let's say, to what category I want to go into, R&B, funk, and these are all different bass lines. I can pick any bass line I want. See? Make it slappy, make it funky. Yeah! Just by the touch of an icon on the screen. And remember, the bass follows you as you perform. You hear that bass? I mean, this is live. This is live, right? Even the guitar, I can also change that. I'm gonna go into guitar. Now I was in the bass track. Where's my live guitar? I have a live guitar somewhere around here, right there. That's the live guitar. I touch and hold that for 2 seconds. It gives me that screen. Let me show you the screen real quick. So now I can pick a different live guitar, okay, from all these different categories. If I can go to R&B number 2. Wow, this is getting nice. All right, I can go and pick the rock mix. Nah, I just killed it. And this is how you can kill music in 1 second. Let me try the let's see. Oh, I know these are gonna sound weird. Let me go here and make this interesting, right? How about electric guitar number 6? I like this one lots of times. Then I can now go here. That's the live guitar. And you can see where it says, there we go, now we're talking. I want to bring that volume up. I'm going to touch the volume on the screen here, the volume icon. I'm going to turn that knob. So I'm modeling that, okay, that particular track. This is in variation A. If I go to variation B, it's going to go back to the normal factory stuff in B. I didn't change anything in B, right? I can now solo this just to hear that particular instrument. Take out the lowers. That's a live guitar. Bring in all the other parts, unsolo it. And now, because I have the global selected, that guitar change applies to every variation part. I like that guitar a lot, right? Bring back up the lowers, do a fill. Now I can just again bring in those Wawa guitars, okay, that Mr. Rob was asking for. So this is where it gets pretty much interesting. Pretty much, as I'm doing the part, I can actually have the different sections going on here, right? So I have like the lowers, I have the chord section. And remember, I can combine that also with this instrument here, right? So I can make this really start to sound funky. I'm gonna go down here on this one and I'm gonna pick, let's say, my brass horns, okay? And then again, of course, the super articulation, if you hit it hard. This is the A-Jam brass shake, and of course you can have different effects as well too, even the AJAMSONIC trumpet. Bend and shake. In combination with this, what do we have? So pretty much, you can notice exactly how we're going back and forth, right? In terms of bringing in the different parts in real time. Now, with the modeling tool there, the combinations are endless, right? You can pick different instruments to bring them into the different tracks, and you can perform in real time. So before we wrap up, we're going to talk about one more thing, but let's go back and see if anybody else has more questions. Let's start off with our folks here on YouTube. Thanks for this session. Can you address setting splits in the SD using the voice and variations from styles with full keyboard to a split with a keyboard left hand and a solo voice on the lead? So yes, so to set up the split points on the board, you start with the split button right here, which is over there, right? So pretty much this button determines at what point you have voices assigned to the right and voices assigned to the left of the keyboard. So let's go in so I can let's look. I can give you a closer look exactly at how that is actually accomplished, right? So, look, using this particular style, for example, how do you set the split point? Very simple. You just press and hold down the split button, and this is what your screen looks like. You're going to see split F2. Right now, my split point is over here at F#2, right? And by just holding the button down, I can assign the split to different sections. Let me show you the screen right there. So as I'm doing that, you see what it's doing? It's actually telling me where the split point is at. So long as I have that button held down, I can assign where I want the split. In my case, I love it over here, right? That way I have a lot more keys to work with on the right, and I just use this section here for my different chording. So that's how you assign the split. And then using the voice and variations from the styles with the full keyboard to split. So if you want to change, what you would do is when you go to the voice and variation over here, these voices are voices that are assigned to every style. So every style has 4 pre-assigned voices to it. So when I pick a style up, for an example, if I touch number 1 manually, that's the voice that's assigned to it, okay? If I touch number 2, let me turn off the Audya here so we don't hear the Audya voicing. So, okay, where was I? So, in this case right now, just on the SD, the second voice, let's turn that off for this demonstration, right? So, now I have romantic piano, second voice is an FM piano, third voice is a guitar, and the fourth is the brass, okay? So if the voice to ABC button is off, it means that whenever you pick a style, it's gonna assign 4 voices automatically to that style, and you have to manually turn those voices on and off as you see needed, right? But if you want to avoid that headache, there's a function here called voice to ABCD. When that button is turned on, it means that as you change the variation, look at that, the voices are changed automatically. So as you press variation A, it picks the first voice. If you pick variation B, it picks the second voice. Variation C picks the third voice, and variation D picks the fourth voice. That is the default, but it doesn't have to be that way. What if you want variation D to pick the first voice? It's simple. With variation D on, you can override it. You can pick the first voice. What if you want variation C not to pick this third voice, but the second one? You override it. You want variation B to pick the last voice. You override it. You want variation A to pick the third voice. You override. So now guess what? When I press A, it picks the third voice. If I press B, it picks the fourth voice. If I press C, it picks the second voice. And if I press D, it picks the first voice. Now, if I save this, if I hit the save button and I save it as a user style, guess what? Whenever I load that style up, it will remember which of these buttons are tied to which of those voices, right? So the default is that the first voice picks the first button, A picks the first voice. But you can arrange it, arrange it or rearrange it the way you see fit. It doesn't have to be that particular way, right? So in this case now, if I'm playing and I have the voice to ABC on, it means that when I'm playing, B, third voice, fourth voice, C, So that gets pretty interesting. I hope that answers your question. So you can combine it. You can have the machine change the voicing for you, right? Or you can decide to say, hey, listen, I'm going to be the one to change the voices in real time. Remember, these are all happening in real time. So if you have that amount of flexibility as you're performing live, imagine the amount of flexibility you would have in the studio where you actually have time to sit down and to layer your voices and arrange the voices the way you see fit and the way you would like to perform with them, right? So let's go back again. I hope that answers your question, Ed, Mr. Ed, with regards to the voicing. It's a very good question indeed. And some people were wondering, what does the voice to ABC do? Now, also, while we're in here, you have a function there called voice list page 2. So inside the Audya, you have, sorry, the SD90, you have over 480 voices. Plus, if you get the AJAMSONIC package, it adds an additional 140 professional workstation voices, okay? Now, guess what? Sometimes you're like, wait a minute, what voice do I want to use for what song? So we have a function on there called voice list, and it allows you to bring your favorite voices into a particular page. So voice list, this is page 1, right? I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go back to your screen here so you can see what I'm talking about. If I press the voice list button, okay, right there, voice list, you see a display, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have 8 voices on the first page, right? If I turn the wheel, I have 8 more voices on the second page. And I can keep on going, all right? So let's go to page 1. Let's see where we're selected right here. Page 1, okay? I have these 8 voices. This is where I put my favorite voices, right? So I have all these voices to make selections from, but I want to have maybe just 8 or 16 or let's say 24 or so dedicated voices that I know I use all the time. I want them in one spot. I want the voices to be in one place. That's going to be in your voice list. And how do you put a voice in here? So KETRON already gave you what they thought were the favorite voices, and you just touch and hold them and replace it. You hold for 2 seconds, and in this case, I want to use, let's say, a pad. I want my pad, my space sound to be in there. Press exit, and guess what? Now my space sound is in location number 2. I have the location number 3, a sound called ensemble. I don't want that. I want to have a flugelhorn in there. Well, I have a flugelhorn here already. Let's say I wanted to have an electric piano in here, an AJAMSONIC electric piano. So I'm going to touch and hold that for 2 seconds. It takes me to my voice selection screen. I'm going to go to my user location and go into my piano. And I'm going to look for that AJAM DX piano that I'm looking for. That okay. There we go. And when I press exit, that voice now gets stored in that location. So in the voice list page 1, this is the first page of the voice list, I have these voices in here. I can now go to page 2 and even add more voices. Right now I have an alto soft. Let's say I don't care about that voice. I want to replace it. Touch and hold it for 2 seconds. And it brings me to this screen. Okay, my voice selection screen. And let's say I wanted to put an AJAMSONIC steel drum. That's going to be in the user location. I touch user, I touch ethnic, and I look for my steel drum. That's in voice list page number 2. Okay, so now we're on voice list page number 2. So what you do is you set up your voice list and you have different pages, 8 pages of voice list. Each one has 8 voices to work with. Now, when you come to the style, let's go back to our style right here, for example, and get into this page with the view. Let's go back to where we were. No, not in there, sorry. We're under voice and variation. Okay, so you see where it says voice list page 2. I have my voice list with the various voices in the various pages. So now I can assign which voice list page I want to recall with each style, okay? So I can go up as high as, wow, it was actually increased in the latest software, page 10. So I have 80 voices, 10 per page, okay? So for this particular style, I want to grab page 2 of my voice list, right? And if I pick another style, I want to grab page 4 of my voice list. So in that case, whenever I pick a style, if my voice list button is on, automatically the 8 sounds that are associated with that particular style which will be recalled in real time instantly. When I pick my other style, maybe that's going to pick voice list page number 7, right, which has these particular voices. So that's a very powerful tool indeed because it brings everything to one place. Not only that, when you're using registrations as well, you will notice in the new software, I think it was actually a couple of software's revisions before, we also have voice select on the bottom here. So I can actually, in addition to those 4 voices that we had that were tied to the variation, I can have 5 more voices here that I can quickly have access to. Again, remember, the whole purpose of this is to be able to have quick access to your voices in real time, okay? Now, I'm gonna do this just for the sake of a demonstration here. Steel drum. Let's see, registration. Lord, I lift your name on high. Hit that twice, and it loads up that. As you can see, in this case, this song has lyrics, right? So I pick the registration, and it is linked to this lyrics, okay? So when I start to play, I can actually see the lyrics displayed on the instrument in real time. So what does that really that mean? Now, if I get out of here, I can toggle back and forth. I can still get back to my, normal operation of my keyboard. But when I press the lyric button, which is found over here in the top left-hand corner, I can quickly now display the lyrics of that song, right? As you can see on the screen right there. And if I turn off the lyric button, what do I have? I get back to my full operation, as you can see on the screen right there, right? So this is where it becomes very interesting, because now I can actually have access to the actual control parameters, and even if I have an external monitor, I can choose to have that display my lyrics of my song, right, as I'm performing in real time, So I'm going to leave you all with this Christian song. Again, is to give you an idea of the power of this machine in real time. Let's start this off nice and gentle. I'm going to take down the bass and the chord volume. And let me try something else here too. Let me see if I get into this chord section, and I want to just start with that live guitar. I'm going to go into my view, and just to show you what I'm doing on the screen here. Yes, I want to make sure that the guitar is turned up. I want that guitar sound to be the prominent sound in this song. So I want to start off with an introduction. Press the intro button over there and start with a short introduction, and here we go. for this. Thank you all for taking your time to spend with us today as we went through this short, what we call a short presentation. Again, if you want to find out more about KETRON instruments, check the screen below, right there somewhere. You're going to find some information with regards to what we do. If you want to get some information on how to enhance your existing KETRON instrument, or if you have another musical instrument that you'd like to have sounding like what we have over here, again, don't fail to give us drop us a line, as you can see below the screen, and we shall be more than happy and willing to help you. Again, my name is AJ, and I'll be signing out for today. Have the rest of the weekend to enjoy yourselves. Be safe, be calm, and see you all again very, very soon.